Hey, crypto media friends, welcome to another Overtime Show. Wednesday, May 11th. Tough day in the markets today. We're going to keep the show pretty light. I think, it's kind of tough on everybody. We're just kind of standing by. I think everyone knows what's going on in the marketplace currently. It's not pretty, but we're going to go over, if we can eliminate some of these messages that hit us. This that's going on in the market right now, please subscribe, hit the bell notification. I do this live so that we can really get into what's happening in the moment, and zero financial advice here ever. Usually this is from the perspective of building and creation and artists, and but sometimes we just have to look at what's happening in the marketplace just to kind of understand where to position ourselves, as whether that's as collectors and or artists, and where to sort of land within markets, because certainly this has been this is just 7 days of what's going on, but I think we all not everybody understands the depegging of UST. And what it means to the broader marketplace, because let's see if it's even listed in the top 100 right now. When UST depegged, it had to deploy funds to kind of raise it back up to meet the demand of the sales. And so, massive hiccup, and it was just like, okay, here comes the correction, but it didn't quite make it, and it was sort of I think confusing for the marketplace, because then it was like, oh, it should be already heading right back up. They were looking to deploy more capital. They had set aside a Bitcoin fund that had been in the news quite often, as it was accumulating $3 billion of Bitcoin to prevent such a thing. And so it went into this mode of consternation where it's just like, oh, hey, it's not quite there. Oh, let's deploy more capital. But then everybody read that, the marketplace read that as, holy crap, they're about to flood the marketplace with more Bitcoin. And so in doing so, drove Bitcoin down. And we all know what happens when Bitcoin goes down. It brings all the people and all the projects in altcoin land down with it. It leads the tide. It is the tide. Bitcoin. Very few have been able to get out of its rise and fall as an indicator of the overall marketplace. But I think we're all just looking at slight indicators of what the bottom is, where that bottom is, because these are prices that we haven't seen in a long time, especially in the Ethereum avenue. When we were looking at 2,300, like, oh man, this is the bottom of the bottom, and today, just in the last couple hours, we've seen it gone below 2,000 into 1,800 land. And so, honestly, I like to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum when it is in these sort of depressed levels of overreaction in the marketplace. Zero financial advice ever. But I'm eagerly looking at this, but equally at the same time, I'm looking at, obviously, Bitcoin. UST has deployed about, as far as I understand, 1.5 billion of their Bitcoin reserves. They're looking for additional capital, while also trying to look to deploy the other probably 1.5 billion that they have into buoying UST, which at 58, it's just like, is this going to happen? I think when you see a lot of this, you start to see, and I think if you're on crypto Twitter and you're on these conversations in Discord, there's a lot of people speculating, and I think that unfortunately it's the traders and it's the greed that's really catching up to us here, because people are trading in and out of UST, riding this wave, thinking, oh my gosh, is it going to go up? Oh, and then once they're selling, it's causing, once they're getting the spike up, it's causing an automatic decline in the pricing. And so when you have people speculating on the stable coin, that's also indicating, sale of BTC. We're in a very dangerous, bad relationship that we should get out of quick and get our CDs and get the hell out of there. If you're in a relationship with CDs, you have been in that relationship too long. So, let's keep it light today, but those are sort of the broader economic strokes and the indicators that most people are looking at in terms of, okay, is this over? Is the bottom in? And at UST at 58 cents, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think, it looks like zero speculation. This is all speculation, but this entire show is going to be dedicated to speculation. But when you can't recover after deploying most of your BTC capital, at a certain point you're out of BTC. Maybe that's the up. Maybe UST has to fail. All its BTC is deployed and sucked out of their coffers into the marketplace, and the marketplace automatically sort of recovers with all that supply. That seems like a scenario. There's a lot of scenarios. But let's share some of what's going on with the other side, which is at a nice discount right now. They just released a preview, other side meta. Of course, the Yuga Labs Bored Apes Yacht Club Metaverse project. I'm going to see how this works. Let me know if it... Oh my gosh. Now here's the thing about Hollywood studios. We don't have the fastest internet, and it's really literally the buildings here are so old. They have to reroute these cables into our buildings, and still they're just not the fastest. So I apologize, but I have linked in the description down below some of this, all the links to this, and you can see just some of the general world that they've created. It looks very nice. Some critics say this is $6,000 to play first person game. That of course being a bit broad, but we're talking about ownership within this structure of 100,000 parcels. It looks quite good, to be honest. It looks much better than the Sandbox. And certainly I think, as partnerships evolve, just the boldness to go dark here is interesting, and give it some ambiance, but just a little check in there. Also wanted to talk today about Jack Dorsey had a comment about Twitter, saying that he'll never be the CEO of Twitter again, of course, because Elon Musk he's gonna be too busy. He's running rockets into the air, and ostensibly still with Tesla, and so to run Twitter, I don't think was his idea. But I do think that there's something afoot about when Elon wanted to engage with Twitter, just the steps that he took, I thought were very interesting, and I think when you look at Jack Dorsey's comment below, he also says no one ultimately should be Twitter's CEO. Of course, he's pointing to and talking about decentralization. And those entities that I think Elon wants to incorporate, into Twitter in his early discussions, like, hey guys, he went to Twitter and said, hey, why don't you accept Doge as payment? They're like, no, F you, Elon, get lost. Okay. He comes back, with, hey, maybe I should join your board. No, get lost. Okay, I'm buying you out. And so he's getting his investors together and creating a deal, and may become the owner and have all the say of what happens to Twitter. Something that, early on, Jack Dorsey had indicated he would like to have a decentralized Twitter, and I think that was the challenge, the board, getting things passed by the board. Honestly, a lot of jobs lost. What does that look like? What does the structure look like? How is this governed? A lot of those questions, a lot of expenses that go into that weren't part of a core business money making. It wasn't like more money wasn't going to be made in this model for shareholders, and so which they're beholden to some degree. of which they are majority at the time. But when you're buying them all out, and you own the company privately, that becomes an interesting play, because then you're in the world of I feel like even Reddit has this weight as well. Ohanian does have this ability to take this first step of moving a Web 2 company into Web 3 and decentralized. I think it's just so interesting that Elon's. I was having this, like, this is conspiracy theory day. We've gone from speculation to conspiracy theory, but I was just like, what if Elon somehow places Twitter on top of Doge? Because the thing when you're mining is you have a lot of nodes, and so the nodes themselves are the computer. And so when I was mining Bitcoin, that was the first thing that struck me. I'm like, okay, great, I'm mining this thing, I'm getting this cryptocurrency, but beyond that, what am I participating in? What is the pool? What are these transactions, and what is this network? And this network is the largest supercomputer in the world, and it can make computations, and if you can put something on top of it, you have Ethereum. And so when you have a network of miners, you have all these nodes out in the field that are working, that are able to process and compute. And Doge is probably, is it like number 3 in terms of miners? I'd be hard pressed not to. Every time I was looking at, this is probably, last I checked, 6 months ago, but anytime, I was looking at profitability charts for miners, some of those Doge miners would come up because, depending on the price of Doge at the time. But Doge is essentially, a large supercomputer. And I don't think it's the speed of which, you could process and put an entire network of media on top of, especially with the video. But I think that's probably how the structure will be. The first, structures of Web3 social media, not everything on chain, but certainly decentralized in the way of utilizing the chain within the structure, hosting the media on Filecoin and other services in which to bring together the experience of it. Because that's the thing is, as I explained in the channel way back when Fox had demoed their decentralized video platform service with very quietly with over at Sundance with a small documentary. It was a video platform service that you would not see. You would not understand that it was something very different, except other than it was very good quality video. and it loaded up really fast and quick. And it, to me, I think signaled a really nice experiment for them. And again, as you develop, as you kind of pull together, especially in chains like Cosmos, where you can pull together groups that work alongside each other, chains that work alongside each other and harness the power within an ecosystem, you can create really fantastic projects that can leverage, the benefits of it all. But I just thought it struck me as interesting that we could put an existing Web 2 company, like maybe Reddit, which was eyeing a decentralized structure a few months ago as well, creating value that I can only assume would just be like a straight up 10x. Like if you were to put Dogecoin and put Twitter on top of it, essentially, I can't see it not being just under Ethereum in terms of market cap. And so, going from only 9 billion now, to only, 200 billion, just because of the value that creates with, ostensibly a modest purchase price of, 40 billion and then putting, an existing blockchain not just a blockchain, because that's the thing. You can boot up a block. You can bootstrap a blockchain, but that takes time. That takes a lot of effort. And true decentralization, from the miner standpoint, is the mining, is the nodes that are outstanding that people are participants in. And still, we wait for ETH to develop their or Ethereum to develop their EVM2, and Polkadot, still yet to kind of deploy. I think Cosmos is probably the closest that we have, but I don't know any. I guess you're staking a lot in Cosmos, and so the proof of stake, is developed and is being developed. But until then, as a proof of work model, it seems that Dogecoin is kind of there for the taking. If unless Jack can work out, as his new title is Blockhead, I think, to leverage that same node network with Bitcoin and develop services on top of Bitcoin, just making it a bit more functional than it's just ostensible use as a reserve store, and currently that's going to the detriment of the entire space. So I tried to keep it light today, but I guess when we pull up the chart of red, we get a little anxious, right? So maybe don't look at these things if it does make you anxious. But for me, I find it just fascinating as to, again, these indicators. And these are just the ones that I'm looking at. You should probably look at way different ones because, as these things will come up, like this will come up, but it also will get beaten down because as they deploy to offset, people are speculating. And so when you have this, it's coming up, oh great, like I made, I bought 30, I bought it at 30 cents today. And, as soon as it goes up to 60, I've doubled my money in 2 hours, 3 hours. You're going to sell, and then you're going to get this sideways action here, because I think that's the philosophy of the space that has changed from the last bear market. And I talked about this extensively on the channel, that, we were in a whole diamond hands culture. We really disposed of that, and we threw that out the window. When we all got hit with that really hard bear market, much like this, when you just keep seeing it go lower and lower and lower, and then social media gurus like Becker and Elio, they were like, oh well, I sold, you didn't sell. Oh well, I sold. I'm smart. I'm smarter than you guys. I sold. I didn't. Yeah. He's like, it was so fucked. Like just the mentality of like going to everybody, in these downturns and saying like, oh, you guys, you got to take profits. You got to take profits. Come on, you've got to take profits. This is what I do. I'm a smart guy. I took profits 3 months ago while I was shilling this shit to you. I took profits after. And so, it's a pretty twisted game. And, whether they're telling the truth or not, just trying to seem like smart asses, that's one thing. But in terms of what it means to the overall conditions of, entering the market and being involved in the market, whether that's as a creator or as a collector, you're experiencing a lot of sideways and currently, a lot of downward price action because of just getting really beat down. So anytime, but there's that little rise, and then everyone will call it, oh, the dead cat bounce, blah, 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 and like, just trying to indicate it and, analyze it to death. But it's just people selling after they made a little money, and like 20%, after a couple days is pretty damn good. And so they sell out of their positions and then wait for the next. And I think right now we just have a lot of people waiting for the next. Unfortunately, it's getting really scary because of those same types participating in speculation of a stablecoin, which is crazy to say, right? It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen, and that's why, they put all those reserves together. But those reserves are now, because it's Bitcoin, is leading the marketplace. So playing this dangerous game of creating a stable coin with this methodology seemed very smart, but I think we're looking at a big hole here, guys, and certainly it'll be addressed over time. But the resolution of it yet has still to be fully recovered, and there's a lot of people who are a bit worried because they moved a lot over to UST, especially like in the Cosmos ecosystem. I think there's a lot of ecosystems where even for me, I'm just like it's very easy just to go to UST with your swaps. And so as soon as that's finished though, then I think things will normalize a bit in terms of the marketplace looking at itself and saying, okay, well, with this supply now, how much is everything worth? How much are these, how much is a Bitcoin worth at this point, with $3 billion more just dumped onto the market, in this past week, ostensibly, with this. And again, when you have that and then just people ditching out, it does seem to indicate speculation driving these prices down, because like we all know, Bitcoin leads this marketplace, but it also is just like you just feel in the waters the sharks that are just waiting. They're waiting for this to rectify itself. I'm sure everyone, we're all surprised just sitting there, watching these charts of how low can it go, because that's when we're going to come in. That's when we're going to be smart and deploy our capital reserves. But again, no financial advice. I think this is a really dangerous time because we're dealing with something that we've never seen before. We're dealing with a stable coin that was developed in this unique way, and the consequences of which we're seeing live. And so like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. I do this live so that we can examine this together and make decisions, because this is all going to change in a couple days. And I want you guys to have the best information. So, but take care of yourselves. And I just wanted to share this very nice image that came around, that was moving around. I think there's a lot, especially if you're in the NFT space. There's a lot of people who are hurting, because I think we all assumed that when cryptos go bad, then NFTs are rocking. Typically, that's been the case in the past. As I talked in the channel, it's less and less and less because of, just the awareness of it all. And again, the people trading and the speculators in the space trading for their benefit, not to the benefit of the community. And I love this photo. This photo. It's a real photo taken in last year of September, when we were all friends, when the apes and the punks and the onis and the azukis and the MFers and the wows and the doodles and the cool cats. I think is that a penguin up on top there, and the Murakamis. It is a community, and I hope if you're hurting, to reach out to that community. Have a chat in those discords. We're all hurting. A lot of people are hurting with you, and a lot of people are here for each other, and I think that's what's super cool. I saw a lot of class acts. Not so many for what was going on with the Zuki in the beginning, but I think as soon as people realize that the bravado show of being a blue chip was over in a sense for now, that hey, there's a lot of people who've just lost a lot of money that they've been counting on, that they felt like that they were part of something that was going to change their lives significantly, and for some it did. They sold out early, and but seeing a decline like that is it's just gut-wrenching, I think, for the entire community. And I want to acknowledge that I think sometimes we get a bit competitive with our holdings versus what's mooning, and like, oh gosh, they're mooning and I don't have that, and so screw those guys. But when something like this happens to a community, it affects the entire community, and so I just want to acknowledge that, and wish you guys a good night, and hope you guys take